All right. You've accepted my proposal tonight. So you keep in mind the opposite of truth is the lie. All right? However, in the text, it feels like the opposite of doing evil should be doing good. But Jesus has the opposite of the evil appearing to be the truth. And that tells me that what's going on in the evil man must be opposite of the truth. And what's opposite of true? A lie. So what's going on in the evil man, in some way or the other, is the lie. All right, so let's go to work on the lie, because sometimes if you want to know the truth, go to work on the lie. And then you can establish truth and run in truth, and then all the lies will bounce off of that. So what is the context of this text? Because it's important if you're going to bring this kind of thing to bear. Because what we did is we took the last two sentences, basically, of an extended conversation between Jesus and Nicodemus, and we highlighted the last two sentences. That's categorically unfair. You don't do that to a conversation. You're on the tail end of the conversation. It's not fair to jump in at the very end, hear the last two sentences, and go, hey, I got a new idea. You should probably watch the whole speech. You should probably check out the whole movie. It would help to really lay the context. Now, part of the context you already know. Jesus is talking to Nicodemus. Nicodemus is a high-ranking official in the temple, but he comes to Jesus by night to have a conversation. The very famous moment of, unless a man be born again, he shall not see the kingdom or enter the kingdom. And this great conversation ensues between Jesus and Nicodemus. It involves all kinds of amazing imagery. Jesus reaches back into the Moses story and says, as Moses lifted up the serpent on the pole, so shall the Son of Man be lifted up in the wilderness. And Jesus is already sort of being prescient about the cross. I'm going to be lifted up, and that's going to be the solution, and that's going to be the answer. And then the very famous John 3:16, God loved the world, gave his only Son. Whoever believes in him wouldn't perish but have everlasting life. And then the far less famous, but I think should be just as famous, 17th verse. Go there. John 3:17. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. I want to start here because I think this verse is less famous than its predecessor, but should be just as famous or more famous. And here's why. Because this tells you in a nutshell what Jesus came to do and what Jesus did not come to do. And he gets accused of what he says he didn't come to do, and he gets accused of it all the time, and he gets accused of it in church. Because we have Jesus judging the world. And Jesus says, God did not send me into the world to condemn or to judge the world, but rather, let me tell you what God did send me into the world to do, but so that the world through Christ might be saved. Christ becomes the conduit for the salvation of all evil men. All of us in darkness, all of us in wickedness, the conduit for our salvation becomes Christ. But you cannot land on Christ as a conduit for your salvation if you refuse to accept what Jesus said he did not come to do. I did not come to judge. I did not come to condemn the world. Jesus Christ the same yesterday, today, and forever. Let us assume that the Jesus of yesterday who did not come to condemn the world does not change his mind and decide someday that's not going to work. We're going to go ahead and judge them anyway. And a lot of us are treating Jesus as if he's trying the cross with his fingers crossed. The gospel is God trying to change the world through salvation by the cross and the resurrection. But at the end, God gives up and goes the way of Cain. What's the way of Cain? If it ain't working out, kill somebody. So we kind of got God trying. At the end, he goes, forget it. That didn't work. Let's just wipe people out. And I'm here to show you, I think through the scriptures, you can show it fairly solid, even without leaving John. And if we wanted to run all over the Bible, you could lay a case. But even if you just stayed here, that Jesus does not consider himself the one called to do the judging in the world. Look at John 5. John 5:22, Jesus says this, the Father judges no one, but has committed all judgment to the Son. Based upon John 5:22, how many people is the Father going to judge? None. Who did he commit all the judgment to? The Son. Can you tell we've got a problem? The problem is that in John 3:17, Jesus said, I didn't come to judge people. In John 5:22, Jesus goes, the Father's not judging anyone. He told me I'm the one who's supposed to do it. Hint, hint, 2 chapters ago, I told a dude named Nicodemus, I'm not here to do that. We got ourselves a straight up conundrum. This just doesn't get talked about enough to me in the church. This doesn't get preached enough or discussed enough as to how Jesus can declare that he doesn't come to judge the world. And then in the 5th chapter says the Father's not going to do it. He told me I'm the one that's supposed to do it. And then go to John chapter 12. In John chapter 12, Jesus says this in verse 46. I have come as a light into the world, that whoever believes in me should not abide in darkness. And if anyone hears my word and does not believe, I don't judge him. For I didn't come to judge the world, but to save the world. Time out. We've got more problems. John 3:17, the Son of Man didn't come into the world to judge the world, but that the world through him might be saved. John 5:22, the Father's not going to judge anyone. He told the Son he's supposed to do it. John 12:47, Jesus goes, 46, I came as a light that whoever believes in me shouldn't abide in darkness. 47, and if you hear my words and you don't believe, I'm not the one that's going to judge you. And why am I not going to judge you? Because that's not why I'm here. I didn't come to judge the world. I come to save the world. 48, he who rejects me and doesn't receive my words has that which judges him. And what we think Jesus should say right here is, he has that which judges him, which is all of his evil deeds. Because isn't that why people are going to be judged? Let's just take a little slowdown right here for a second. Isn't the reason the world is going to be judged is because they're doing things wrong? I mean, that's what we watch the news for. To figure out who's under the wrath of God. Who's in trouble. Who's about to be in trouble. Who's in trouble and they don't even know they're in trouble. Those deceived fools. God's got it out for them because of the way that they're acting. And then every time we see something bad going on, all we got to do is just reverse engineer that baby. Take it back from the problem and then run it all the way back through the sin. We get really good at that. Because how many of you know if you just look hard enough, you're going to find something going wrong everywhere. Somebody's doing something wrong everywhere. So every natural disaster, every problem, every fault, every issue, everything, every time someone dies, every time there's a war, every time there's a poverty, every time the stock market crashes, all you got to do is reverse engineer that through a couple of newscasts and a couple of podcasts and a couple of YouTube videos. And what you'll do is you'll end up with the reason, the sin that started the whole ball of wax, that caused the snowball to roll down the hill. I'm here to tell you, don't reverse engineer what's going wrong and think you're going to end up with people's sin. Because according to Jesus, the man that rejects me but doesn't receive my words has that which judges him. I told you what we thought it said. Let me tell you what it actually says. What judges him? The word that I've spoken over him, to him. The word that I have spoken is the word that's going to judge him in the last day.